Hello, Renee Flamond here. I don't know how long we'll have her, but I made her look for 1 minute. Smile! Last week, video 456, we discussed divorcing nicely and not letting it get so ugly. Well, that topic inevitably and always will go to the children, because that's what it's about, really. If you don't have children and you divorce, maybe you never speak again. I've known couples like that, so have you. No harm, no foul. They move on, no big deal. When you have children, there's a lingering presence you will always have with each other, right? Well, I feel like I want to talk more about the children because you know I have endless points on never, ever using the children in your own fight, on trying to make a point with your ex. Oh my God. That is something, when I see that happen, it's all I can do to not open my mouth. And I'm going to outline for you exactly why I know what I'm talking about. Not only do I have a now adult child with my ex that we've reared post-divorce of 16 years, but I'm a stepchild 3 times at different ages. And there were different children in my family and different step-siblings, different children that the new spouses would have. I've seen how relationships can go. Every mathematical combination of love or trouble or working it out or not, or people getting along or not. There's a lot of dynamics involved when you start blending families, and it's tricky. Now, I've seen it from every angle, from a child's perspective, from an adult perspective, from a mother, from a daughter, everything, sister, everything. The damage adults can do to children if they play this game of using the kids can be worse than the effect of the divorce itself. Absolutely 100%. I've seen it. Let's dig into it. Just a couple of, less than a minute of background, just so you know, I really am qualified. I was 4 when my parents divorced. My mom was 17 when they got married. My dad was 19. At 21 and 23, they had their first child. Then they had their second one. Then they had their third. They were divorced by 27 and 29. They were married 10 years. I was 9 when my dad remarried. I was 16 when my mother remarried. And I'm telling you this again so you understand that I am telling you I saw all different ages and all different children coping with all different parental changes. Okay, so 16, I said my mother remarried. 19, my father divorced after 10 years. I had gotten very close to that stepmother. At 22, my dad finds who he is still with today. I was 22, so they've been together over 30 years now. At 41, my mother divorces a second time, me being 41. Now, as I said, interwoven throughout all of this, there are children everywhere. You see parent-child relationships that struggle. I saw what worked and what didn't between the parent and the child dynamic. Whether it's the step-parent and the stepchild, or the real parent and real child, it's tricky. And when relationship between parent-child that are easy come up, you kind of pick up a few things about what worked. But then, like we discussed with divorce, that's a choice also. That's a choice. You know, do you maintain contact if your parent divorces their second person is a choice? I've seen both. I've seen relationships continue post-divorce, even if it's not your biological parent and you got close to your step-parent. And I've seen them where the people never spoke again, the children and the parents. I've seen it all. And the rundown is meant to give you the information that I had quite a base of experience on what worked and what didn't by the time I divorced in my late 30s, I'd seen so much. So much. So I knew the only way our divorce, and this is what I wish for people, the only way ours was going to be was that we would never, ever, 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 ever bring any wrath of ours to her. And that is exactly what you're doing when you're using the kids. I don't care what each other did. Don't care. And I'm not talking about if there's abuse, parental child, and you're keeping your children from them. That's not the discussion here. That's absolutely, I bow in deference to you. You do whatever you need to do to keep your child safe. So please, absolutely, we all agree. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about people who fight. We've all known people. I've seen it. I saw it 3 days ago. People do it unconsciously. You're not getting them that night then. You're not having them that weekend then. Test me. See what I do. That shouldn't even be a thing in the equation that you can play with the child's schedule with their parent, your flexibility with doing the schedule nicely, which that can lead to a great thing for the kid. Let me just break it all down. I know. I get very incensed on this topic because I worry about the kids. But there was no way on earth that my daughter's world was going to be tested or shaken because we couldn't get it together as adults. And we're going to use her to try to hurt each other? Are you out of your mind? Who does that? People do it all the time. And they can't help themselves. They can't help themselves. They're so angry at each other. It's the only way they can think of to bother each other. And you know, with the decision that we made that we would never do that, anything like that to our child, the rest of the non-negotiables were easy. No one will ever use the child to make the other upset. That was like, of course not. Who? Of course not. Like in our, what do you? Of course not. I will never understand the whole "you won't see the kids then" thing. And again, I'm not talking about abusive situations. That's its own world of rules. I can't pay it enough proper mind and respect. You want to get your child out of there. But in a regular example, I've seen it. We all have. And one is mad at the other, and then no kids for you. And I mean, all I can think of is, are you out of your mind? There's one person you're hurting in that case more than anyone. Big guess. Yes, the child who doesn't get to see their parent that they love. And you might say, well, my child doesn't even want to go anyway. She doesn't even like him. Okay, well then I got to ask why. What are you saying around the child about the other parent? Because I wouldn't let my child get away with not absolutely loving her father. That's what she was raised. He's a wonderful guy. That's what she's heard me saying. So if you have a child and that's your argument, they don't want to go anyway. Well then, neither one of you are doing a very good job of talking each other up, which is what last week's Off Topic Friday video was about. Divorcing nicely and talking each other up is much more beneficial for everyone involved. And you know, you're hurting your ex, yes, in that they can't see the child, but they're an adult, so they can process that. But so that's why it's more accurate to say, all right, you're hurting your ex-spouse, but you're scarring your child. That's going to leave a mark. A child who's 7 or 10 or 15, they can't process that. They're not going to even really understand what to do with that. And then are they confused? Now they think they have to be mad at their parent because you badmouthed the parent, and that's why they're not going there because your father did this or your mother said that, or whoever's against whomever, and whoever, you know, you're bringing it to them in your explanation of why they're not going, and now that's creating a dissonance in their mind. They might love that parent. That might be a very good parent to them. But now you're bringing up your stuff to the child, and it makes them confused. Kind of like with our normal topic of narcissism. When you try to explain somebody about a narcissist, they can't believe you. Well, you think a child can believe you? They love their parent. And you're trying to tell them rotten things and you can't go and they said this to me and you don't even know, and kids shouldn't know. I don't care how rude their parent was to you. You might have angered them. You're adults. Work it out. It's not the child's responsibility to hear it, process it, know it, none of it. He got pretty mean. You got pretty mean. She got pretty mean. You got pretty mean. Whoever got pretty mean, guess what? You're adults. Don't tell the child. But they should know how mean their father can be. Why? Is the father being mean to them? Well, or the mother, either one, Are they being mean to them? No, they're a good parent. Then no, they don't need to know how rude they are to you because you were rude back. No, I wasn't. Okay, well then they're a jerk. Don't let their child find that out from you. What winning is that? In life, if the child encounters a jerk side of their parent, they'll deal with it. But they shouldn't have their visit yanked because you're angry at the father or the mother's reaction to something. Or as punishment for something, arbitrarily. You know what I'm talking about. I know there are instances where you have to pull the visit. We're not talking about abusive things or, no. But to make a decision and a choice that you're never going to do that is the best thing you can do for your child. Okay? And fighting in front of the kids, adult topics, absolutely out of the question. I'm not saying you can't have things happen and there might be a couple of things and your child might catch like a snarky remark or a look on your face, and we don't really even do that. We really try to go the other direction. My kid has seen us fight. Of course she has. Yeah, things happen. But on the regular, no. And no child should have to be burdened with the weight of adult topics like money. Wrong! I know one couple. The one partner never stops talking and fighting and arguing about money. In front of the kids, doesn't matter. Now, what do you think that does to a child? They have to worry about whether or not their parent... They make it sound like, you know what I mean? They're fine. But they're always arguing about money. What's that? A kid going to make it sound like, what? We can't afford something? Now, are they afraid maybe to ask for something? And is that a bad byproduct? That might be all right. They give it a second thought. I raised my daughter to give everything a second thought. Money has to be earned, and it costs things. And sure, you teach your kids your lessons. But you don't want a kid worrying about if you can buy food. You don't want your kid worrying about bills to be paid. That's not a concern a child should have at this age. If you argue about money and scream about bill paying and all that in front of the spouse, they don't catch. Even if you're doing it because you're like, well, Renee, he went 6 months without paying me for... And that's not right. Handle your business with them. The child should have nothing to do with it. Well, they should know how their father is. No, not right now. Because they're going to worry about you. And they're going to worry about you paying money and you having enough money. And no, it's an adult topic. No child should ever hear you complain about money, and no child should ever hear you complain about their other parent. And it is so common, more common than not, that people do. And I just want you to understand what that does. As a child that has all of what I just mentioned, I've seen it all. I can tell you what works is when both people are healthy about each other, have a healthy attitude about each other, have a healthy thing to say about one another. My mother and father and stepmother all go eat together. We all will have holidays together. My mother and father get along. They've been divorced at this point 50 years. I think everyone's over that. But they get along as people. They share grandchildren and children in common. My mother and my stepmother, they call each other wife-in-law. It can be very, very lovely if there is not animosity amongst any kind of parent-child thing that creates a dynamic. It can get ugly too. I've had some step-parents that went by the wayside and never to be heard from or spoken to again. So things aren't always pretty. They can be ugly. And I'm telling you what creates ugliness: parental-child dissension, when you see it, that they're not getting along. And the way that that happens, I've seen it happen. The biggest thing is discussing the other parent in front of the kid. Because now they're going to grow up with a chip on their shoulder. If a girl, for example, has a father who gets remarried, and her mother always talks bad about the father and the new wife, you think that daughter is not going to struggle? There's going to be a line. She's going to want to be in line with her mother. It's her and her mother. So she's, part of her now wants to hate the father too, and the new wife. Even though they might have been, has nothing to do, the wife has nothing to do with her mother. It doesn't matter. You're listening to your parent, one of them, complain all the time about your other parent. What does that do to a child? It must pull them. It does pull you. I shouldn't say it must. It pulls you. And the child doesn't know where to go. And the child grows up wanting to please everybody and not know which direction to turn. It's an adult problem brought to the children. It's not proper. It's not proper. Leave the child out of the adult problems, okay? And you know what else? The other thing that I know from having incidents relating to every situation is that what kids hear, that whole thing, parents, kids don't hear anything. Please, that cracks me up. We hear everything. Oh, and by the way, if you really do, if there is extreme hatred and ugliness with you and your spouse and you're like, I just can't be nice to them, Renee, I'm sorry, there's nothing I can say that's nice, then don't say anything at all. Then just don't say anything. Gray rock. Business as usual. You don't have to downplay their parent and talk bad about them. You cannot say a word. Treat it like air. You can do that. I do that. I know a couple that I no longer speak to their ex-spouse. I don't denigrate that parent to those children. I just don't discuss the parent. Period. I have zero to say. No words. I just wanted to get that in. We hear everything as children, and many times, and I would hear parents, they would say, they're playing, they don't know. I was always around the adults. Even when I was small, I'd play near them with my Barbies. I'd be sitting with them at the table, my aunts and uncles, on Easter or desserts on the holidays. I wanted to hear what they had to say. And even if I were on the floor playing with Barbies and they think you're not listening, you hear everything. So adults talk freely. So I caution you against that. You have no idea how many times things were said, and adults don't think kids are listening. And they can hear you. They do hear you. We hear you. We hear everything you say. Everything. And sometimes we go to listen. So we're paying attention. Or we realize something's awry. We have concern for the parent that got remarried, say, and we know something's off. So now we start to pay attention. So their adult problems become ours. And the parent likes it. And see, they're being mean. Don't. Or their own parent. It can get very confusing. Don't. It's our problem. We'll deal with it as an adult. I don't want you worrying about anything. I'm fine. I can assure you I feel strong. I'm fine. These might be choppy waters to navigate, but it's not your problem. Go to school. I'll work it out. No big deal. I got it. I'm an adult. I'm adulting. Let me adult. You don't need to adult with me. You're a child. It's not right to use the kids. It is not right to use the kids. I'm telling you right now. I feel terrible when I think about some of the things that I've heard. And I might have been older with some of those things, but I think, wow, how many times might there have been a 4 or 6 or 8 or 9-year-old who heard those things? Because, the older you get, they think you can handle more, so they let you hear more. What they hear, what children hear, is either going to strengthen them, weaken them, make them feel safe, make them fear everything, build confidence, or strip confidence away. Everything that they are being raised with, both of you, both parents, have got to work out a way to not use the kids for their fight, to make a point, tug of war. How we raise these children post-divorce can be a very positive experience if we as adults make a conscious choice to behave in ways that yield the child a positive experience. You want them this holiday because cousins are in town? Done. You want them that holiday because your side of the family is going to Reno? Go. You need to switch weekends? By all means. It was also flexible for us. We had her schedule so that she could anticipate her life, but things come up, changes happen. Done. Never a worry. No way. That is their life. The nature of a child is things change, things come up at school, blah, 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 blah. They have to feel safe. In order to feel comfortable and blossom and form themselves into productive working humans, people who can process good and bad because they see, they hear and they see, as much as you try to shield, they get wind of things if they're off. They get wind of things. But in order to feel comfortable, they have to know that there's not a worry if there's a change. There's not going to be World War III if I need to ask. I'm not going to ask her. You have to call mommy. I'm not asking her. Or I'm not asking daddy. You said he got mad last time. I'm not asking him. Kids shouldn't be feeling that way at all. No. If you explain nicely, no smearing, about things between each other, and you remain nice, never in 1,000,000 years ever should your child feel that they can't go to either parent about the other parent either, without the parent going a full-on smear. Oh, I know, I was waiting for you to learn. I heard that recently. Now, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're using the kids to make a point. That's not nice. You're garnering their favor against the other parent. Not nice. Not nice. And you know, we both speak highly of each other and only will. And I'm telling you, nicely is the only way to go. You should never be smearing the other parent to the child or in front of the child to a friend. We speak only highly of each other and only will speak highly of each other, especially to her. And certainly around her, when other people are around, you don't want to be hypocritical. You want to adapt some kind of positivity. If you cannot, don't say anything at all. Well, I feel alone. I want them to understand why things are the way they are. Figure out a different way. You don't say to your kids, we're broke, we can't afford it because your father didn't send money. Now they're worried you're broke. I know it's very tempting. I know it's an easy explanation. I know. But we wanted our daughter to have a reverence for her parents in seeing that they have a reverence for one another. I'm telling you, I've seen the ugly side of it, and my way was easier. My way raised a remarkable specimen of a human, and she's out in this world doing great things already, and I just think it works. I remember once, this isn't like talking bad about a spouse, but when I became an adult, my mother said to me, it was really quite funny, talking about Santa, and all the kids are grown now. My brother and my kids are grown now as well, but we were doing Santa with all of them, and my mother said, ugh, I hated Santa. I go, what? This is what made me think of it, because she didn't tell us then she hated Santa, but she hated Santa. I go, why? She goes, well, not for nothing. I'm taking on extra jobs. I save. I try to get you guys what you want, and Santa gets all the credit. We laughed for an hour. She's right. You know what I mean? Same thing with a parent. So another parent might get a little more credit than they deserve. They might not know the full truth about if that ex-spouse was mean to you. They might not catch the full drift of why you can't afford that because they didn't give you money. I don't care. It shouldn't be their burden. It should not be their burden. And children worry. I was a worrier. From a very young age, I had everyone's interests in mind. I'm the one that got along with all the step-parents, all the stepchildren. I tried not to have, but I saw some combinations that didn't work out. It's a tough road because blended families are a thing today. And once there's a divorce, that opens up the possibility. I'll never get married again. Okay. Well, you still have the duty, regardless of step-parents or children. You still have the duty. It is your duty to allow your child to form their own opinion about their parent. My husband is very strong-willed. My ex-husband, very strong-willed. I allowed my daughter to learn that on her own. And she did. She did. For example, he never leaves her alone. Calls her, texts her, FaceTimes her, whatever. And I know how he is. So I said one day, is he still FaceTiming in the middle of class? Because I don't do that. I'll text her. We'll plan a phone call a week ahead. I'm not intruding upon her life saying, FaceTime me. He will. She could be in the car with 6 friends going off in the mountains. He's like, but FaceTime me. Now, what 22-year-olds wanting to FaceTime their dad in the car with their friends? He has some boundary when it comes to his kid. So I said to her, is he still FaceTiming you in class? Because he wouldn't even look at the clock. He would just want to see his baby. He calls her. She goes, oh, yeah. I said, what do you do? She goes, he's learned to be ignored. I have to ignore it. I'm in class. He'll get over it. He understands, and I'll call him when I can, and I'll tell him, Dad, I was in class. He'll be all right. She doesn't let it get to her. She's learned how to handle his headstrongness and whatever in her way. She's a grown woman. I gave her the confidence, the love, the freedom, the safety, and the room to discover him on her own. They're very close. She and I are very close. We're all very close. But I'm not saying that there aren't words people have. You're different people. You're going to argue with your parents or not argue. We don't really argue. But her and her dad talk a lot about different things, politics, and I'm sure, but they agree, I think, most of the time. But I'm sure there are times, but she knows how to handle him because she was given the room to learn how. I didn't grow up telling her, he's headstrong, if you get into an argument, this is what he's going to... No way. I wanted her, because maybe he would never have shown her that side. So there are signs that you might be telling your kids about their parent when they were mean to you. That child may never ever see that side. They might be a good parent. And you might even know it. And you're denigrating them to the children. It's not right, my friends. And if you know anyone who is doing that, please encourage them not to. It all falls on the children. And if they are reared in a healthy, loving, positive environment, it doesn't matter how many divorces there are. They could be a very wonderful, healthy, well-adjusted person. It all depends how things are going down. And using the kids to try to make a point or as pawns in a fight, not the way to ever go. It's never a good, there's nothing you could, there's nothing except an abusive or unsafe environment. That's different. That's different. We're not talking about child welfare here. We're assuming conditions are copacetic. Just as a fight to make a point, stop immediately. It's not good. I just want to mention it. Please, please, please watch for this. And if it's happening to you, try to approach, hey, you know what? Can we have a conversation? Can we just call a timeout or a ceasefire and try to go forward and figure out a better way? Be the bigger person and say, you know what? My energy's exhausted. Are you? We're going to carry this for the next 50 years? At some point? It becomes exhausting. Go at it with that angle. Maybe that'll help. Anyway, I just wanted to mention it. Thank you so much for watching. And please go ahead and hit sub, like, and share. And I will see you next time.